Colorado coach Deion Sanders.
Yes.
Back in the news.
So he was back to saying he could never coach in the NFL after attempting to coach in the NFL. But
yeah, you wonder how that all went down. Well, he always says that. He says he doesn't want to coach in the NFL because he thinks players are spoiled and won't practice hard.
Yeah, but then like when money comes up, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's interested in the Cowboys job and he would take it if offered."
Well, I think he even said, wasn't he the one that, to his credit, he got out in front of it and said, "Yeah, I am talking to Dallas."
I don't remember that. I just know that there were people saying that if that job is offered to him, he would take it for a number. It's just that Jerry's cheap ass won't pay.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he hit social media with it. He said, "Look, I am not shopping around.
Yeah,
my feet sees
8 toes down.
That's right, because he's missing 2 toes.
He's missing 2 toes.
8 toes down in Boulder, but Dallas. I think he sent out there. He said, "Yeah, Dallas called and it was an interesting conversation, something to that effect."
Yeah.
So he was interested in that because it's the Cowboys.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the.
But Jerry lowballed him.
The most expensive franchise in the world. Why wouldn't you at least listen?
But he said this little nugget I read today. I didn't know this. Apparently, he's done this the whole time at Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
He has never made an in-home visit.
No.
Did you know that?
I did know that. Doesn't believe in them.
He doesn't believe in them.
No.
And he also doesn't visit high schools.
No. That's why a lot of people don't take him seriously, in that he kind of doesn't really buy into the whole high school thing. He believes in the transfer portal, and they just don't think it's a real sustainable model. And this was like Joe Paterno got murdered for this. Supposedly at the end, Joe Paterno wouldn't go on home visits, and people crucified him for it. Terrell Pryor was from Pennsylvania, and I guess it was like an 1.5 or 2 hour drive from State College, and Joe Paterno wouldn't go visit him. And I guess the family was like, "Well, dude, F you. Like, we're not going there."
But that was a different time. Like, you had to make that trip if you wanted that quarterback. You don't have to do that anymore.
Ah, boy, I don't know.
Does he? Wait, so are you telling me that he only gets transfers?
Well, he gets transfers, and I mean, they get high school kids, but I mean, he obviously leans, and because they got a high school quarterback that was a USC flip. But yeah, they are 100% heavy portal as opposed to high school rankings.
But so he's still not, even for the high school kids that he does get, he makes them come to Boulder. He does not.
No.
He does not go visit them.
Does not go visit them.
He said, so I have his quote here. He says, it says, instead of the standard practice of visiting the homes and high schools of recruits and having those recruits visit his campus too, Sanders has used his national fame to lure in recruits to meet him on campus only.
Yeah.
He even recently started a weekly entertainment talk show on Tubi to help reach recruits and their families another way on their screens.
But can I?
He says, well, let me give you his quote here.
Yeah, give me the quote.
He says, quote, "That's how I recruit. I don't go to nobody's school or nobody's house. I'm not doing that. I'm too old to be going to somebody's school, somebody's house. All the kids that I'm recruiting, as a matter of fact, they're in the transfer portal. They're grown men with kids. They don't need me to come around their crib and try to convince them to come play for me. Nah."
Yeah. See, and this is why I ultimately don't take him seriously.
End quote.
Yes. So, I mean,
well, he's done a pretty good job with that so far.
Has he?
But I do see. Well, I think he has. Yeah.
Yeah,
because everybody said he was. Listen, let's give him credit, or let's be fair to him. At the start of this year, everyone thought that was going to be a disaster.
Yes.
And it wasn't.
It was not. But
he was in the running for the Big 12 Coach of the Year.
And yet they won nothing. I would also like to point out that from a recruiting standpoint, not transfer portal, do you know where they ranked in Big 12 recruiting last year, this class that just signed?
This says 27th.
No, this was for this year. In the Big 12, there's 16 teams in the Big 12.
Yeah,
just high school.
Oh, in the Big 12. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm reading it at the same time. But not nationally. You're saying Big 12?
Big 12.
12.
16 teams.
I would imagine because you're trying to make a point that it's 12.
16.
Oh,
there's 16 teams in the Big 12. They're 16th. In the 2025 class coming up here, this next run, they are currently 37th.
But that doesn't take into account transfer.
It does not take into account transfer.
Well, and that's what he says. He's like, I'm doing this all off of transfers.
And I believe that this ultimately will crash and burn in a colossal failure.
Right. Well, we'll see.
So, I'm just saying, this is like when everyone else, Ohio State, Oregon, LSU, Michigan, Georgia, Nick Saban, for God's sakes, when they all do it, And now you've got Deion being like, yeah, I'm not doing it that way. I'm doing it this way. I'm sorry, you're not an innovator. I think you're kind of a dumbass. And obviously you've done it in 2 years there. You've made the program somewhat relevant. You have.
Well, he's using his name.
He's using his
Like,
name.
not everybody could do this.
No.
Because he's Prime, he thinks he can do this.
Yeah.
And he's had some success doing it. I mean, this says that, this is why I said 27. 17 transfers, 14 high school recruits. Total, the recruiting class is 27th nationally.
Because of the transfer portal.
Yeah. But, I mean, still, it doesn't, like, we shouldn't take that away. If that's his route, or route, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
if he still ends up, no matter how he gets there, with the 27th nationally ranked recruiting class at Colorado, that's pretty good.
I guess.
That's pretty good.
I guess.
It is.
Yeah.
How is it not for Colorado?
Again, from where they're at, but I would also, again, their best win. This is why two things can be true at the same time. I'm not trying to crap all over Deion Sanders, but people make this out to be this Herculean sort of thing that he's done. His best win there is probably Utah. I mean, Oklahoma State, which were bad teams last year. He has not beat anybody.
Well, he's got some buzz.
Okay, and now you've lost Travis Hunter, you lost Shadur Sanders.
Yeah,
that obviously came. So
yeah, that's the
I'll
interesting
just
part.
be interested to see where this goes. I am still willing to wager that the way he is attempting to do this is going to be a unmitigated disaster. And this was a little bit, and look, I ate my crow last year, and I was like, dude, that is way better than anyone thought. And towards the end of the year, they were a solid team. Didn't go anywhere. Lost to BYU in the bowl game. Thank you. But obviously he did a nice job of stabilizing that program from where it was at. But we said this exact same thing with Herm Edwards when he first got there. We're like, oh my God, he took a really weird, funky approach. It didn't make sense to anyone, but they're like, all right. And for a year or two, it was okay. And then it went into the side of the mountain. I still firmly believe that the way he is going about doing this and relying so heavily on the transfer portal and just using his name and that, and not spending any time recruiting into the high school ranks and trying to grow and develop a team from within, I believe that this will crash and burn. And we'll still see what happens now, because I do think that Travis Hunter and his son kept that program. I think they did a lot of heavy lifting, and I will be very, very interested to see where it goes this year.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll crash and burn. You may be right. I would say I think he can do it this way because he already has. It's just I don't know that they'll ever be great that way.
And that's my point, is I think if he actually cared and were actually to put effort into it and, I don't know, recruit and try something, to say that you're too old and I ain't doing it that way, it fascinates me. I mean, that takes some balls, and I'll give him that. That
you
man
think he's
has
kind of lazy?
I do. I think this is, that to me speaks of someone that
he wants to coach but doesn't want to do it.
Yes.
He doesn't want to go all in.
Yes. His thing is, I am so famous and I have such a name that I think I can get by doing it this way, as opposed to, and it also leads me to believe that he's not going to be long for that program. Because I've said it, it's fine if you want to go out and look, Oregon fills holes with the transfer portal, Alabama does, everybody. But to say that is basically how you are going to construct your roster, is this constant turnover and bringing in transfer kids, I do not believe that will be something that you can have long-term success with. I still think the meat and potatoes of your team has to be a developmental program, bringing kids up through the ranks, especially along the O&D lines. And I will be fascinated to see how this works.
So how unusual is Deion's recruiting approach, never having gone on an in-home visit? This, according to USA Today, Brian Kelly of LSU made 257 off-campus recruiting contacts from December of 2022 to early February of 2024.
Deion's never done one.
And that included 46 home visits.
Well, and again, I bet you if you asked, and he would never say this, he wouldn't talk about it, but I'm guessing that can we admit that Dan Lanning has done a nice job at Oregon?
Well, yeah.
I'm guessing that, and Dan Lanning puts together a top 5 recruiting class. I'm guessing that if you went to Dan Lanning and said,
you no longer do in-home visits, or
I bet he would, or he said, can you believe in today's day and age, 2025, that there is a Power 4 coach that does not believe in going to visit kids? I bet you he would laugh his ass off. And I bet you could say that about Kirby Smart. I bet you could say it about Lane Kiffin. You say it about any of those guys. So does he really think, is his ego that big?
The answer to that is yes.
And well, there you go. And so to me, if you ask me why I think that thing will crash and burn, right there. When your ego is so great that you do not feel the need to do something that every other big time coach and national championship winning coaches, the Ryan Days of the world, and that's why, like, a little bit like the Dabo thing, I said the same thing when Dabo was like, we're not really about the transfer portal at all. I'm like, well, all right, well, you get ready to fall behind then, because the transfer portal works and every school is using it. And when you are the one that is, you say, nope, we're going to do something completely different. You can say in one way that makes you like an innovator, but at some point you're just a dumbass. That's like saying, like, best practices. Like, it'd be like if you were a golf, you're a pro golfer. You're like, I don't really believe in practicing.
Nice.
I know everyone else practices, but I just have all this natural talent.
I don't get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'll be out there on.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to go to Augusta and play the course before the Masters? Why? No, I'm fine. I don't need that.
Do you think that? I'm only just now thinking of this because you brought up Dan Lanning, but do you think that all that bit, because the talk with your helmet, and he was like, when they killed Colorado 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You wonder if that had something to do with it. Like, Lanning was looking at him going, dude, come on, man.
I guarantee it.
You won't even do in-home visits. We're going to kick your ass.
Yes. I'm guessing that behind the scenes,
they're fighting for clicks, we're fighting for wins.
And whether you want to call it jealousy or you want to call it sour grapes, you can call it whatever you want. I'll bet you that right there, I bet you that pisses a lot of people off, because I do think that those coaches spend as much, if not more, time on that recruiting stuff than anything else. And the idea that
doing it,
and the idea that someone says, too old for that crap, I don't need to do any of that, and then tries to go out and kind of do the, look, that guy makes a lot of waves and ruffles a lot of feathers, and I think that plays a role in it. And yes, if I was a coach that put in that amount of time, I absolutely would want to make a statement by kicking that dude's teeth in on the field and then doing the fighting for clicks thing.
I will say this about Prime. He certainly doesn't care about having a target on his back.
No, he does not. And that's where I will say, the one thing I respect about Deion Sanders is that dude is himself. And he'll be good and damned if he's going to change for everybody or anybody. But I ultimately don't know how you can be successful in that world.